So using these two critical parameters, like ion density represented as N, confinement time represented as T or tau, the criterion for net energy output can be found, which is what is known as Lawson's criterion. Like ion density into confinement time, if it is greater than or equal to 10 power 4 seconds per centimeter cube, this is for deuterium-tritium reaction. Whereas for deuterium-deuterium reaction, the product is greater than or equal to 10 power 16 seconds per centimeter cube. It is based on the comparing the energy required to heat the plasma. So generalizing that, the formula which is given here, EH equal to D1N, to the energy generated by the fusion process. So generally you can measure the fusion process energy as EF equal to D2N square tau. Here D1 and D2 depend on the reaction. So such fusion reactions are not feasible in any metallic chambers because such high temperatures cannot be withstood by any material. So the magnetically compressed plasmas can create such high temperatures, but confining these is very difficult. There are two methods to confine the plasmas. One is called magnetic field confinement and other is called inertial confinement. In magnetic field confinement, through a tube wall, plasma is allowed to pass through, which is being kept between two magnetic coils so that ion losses can be easily counted. So let us look at how do we get controlled nuclear fission reaction. So in order to maintain a sustained controlled reaction for every 2 to 3 neutrons released, a neutron must be allowed to strike another uranium nucleus, thus diverting it. If this ratio is less than 1, then the reaction will die out. If it is greater than 1, it will go uncontrolled as an atomic explosion. So nuclear reactions are controlled by a neutron absorbing material like graphite or cadmium or heavy water, etc. Now diagrammatically you can show like this. By putting absorbing materials, the number of neutrons are reduced so that collision becomes less, therefore reaction can become controlled. This is how controlled fission reaction schematically can be understood. So with this background, let us look at types of nuclear fuel. Scientists knew that the most common isotope, that is uranium-238, was not suitable for a nuclear weapon. There is a fairly high probability that an incident neutron can be captured to form uranium-239 instead of causing a fission. But however, uranium-235 has a high fission probability. Of the natural uranium available, only 0.7% is uranium-235. This means that a large amount of uranium is needed to obtain the necessary quantities of uranium-235. Also, uranium-235 cannot be separated chemically from uranium-238 because the isotopes are almost chemically similar. So therefore, alternative methods have been developed to separate the isotopes. This was the problem in fact faced in the very first atom bomb project. The process of increasing the contacts of uranium-235 in uranium is what is called uranium enrichment. So the enrichment of uranium is done in gaseous form. First, the uranium metal, including all the isotopes, is made to react with fluorine to produce uranium hexafluoride that can be evaporated to convert it into gaseous form. This gas is gravitationally then processed. This gas is then processed in ultra-high centrifuges to separate the molecules with uranium-239 and uranium-235 gravitationally. So as of now, only few countries have the effective technology to procure the uranium to produce reactor or weapon grade uranium. Research has shown that plutonium 239 has a high fission probability. But however, plutonium 239 is not a naturally occurring element, but it can be produced as byproducts in nuclear reactors. So let us understand spontaneous fission. The spontaneous fission rate is the probability per second of a given atom to undergo fission spontaneously, that is, without any external intervention. If a spontaneous fission occurs before the bomb is ready, it could fizzle. Plutonium 239 has a very high spontaneous fission rate compared to spontaneous fission rate of uranium 235 as shown here. Scientists have to consider the spontaneous fission rate of each material when designing the nuclear weapons. There are mainly three types of nuclear bombs. One is fission bomb, that is fuel used is uranium or plutonium based. The other one is a fusion bomb. It can be hydrogen based, it's also called hydrogen bomb. And the third one is a neutron bomb. The specialty of this neutron bomb is it destroys only living creatures. Now, when you talk about the nuclear bomb, the design of the bomb, for example, code named Little Boy, you might be recollecting, the one dropped by America on Japan in 1945. It basically consists of a gun that fired one mass of a uranium 235, yet another mass of uranium 235, thus creating a supercritical mass. A crucial requirement was that the two pieces be brought together in a shorter time than the time between the spontaneous fissions. Once the two pieces of uranium are brought together, the initiator introduces a burst of neutrons and the chain reaction begins. That continues until the energy released blows the bomb apart. Let us schematically understand the design of fission bomb Little Boy, which is uranium based fission bomb, which was dropped at Hiroshima during the World War II by America. It is a device that has fuel, that is fissile material, in two or more separate subcritical masses. These are subcritical masses. These are where the explosion control, conventional explosive is kept. So this is the target kept as cylindrical in nature. This is the gun barrel. So two or more separate subcritical masses are used where the fuel is kept. So these are made very close to form a critical mass that is an essential condition for fission reaction to take place. This is achieved just before exploding the device, either by mechanical or by some small chemical explosion mechanism. The neutron source placed at the center of the critical mass. Center of the critical mass, neutron source is placed. So the neutron source placed at the center of the critical mass initiates the reaction, that is uncontrolled one, and therefore highly explosive and destructive. It can raise the temperature of the atmosphere up to greater than 6000 Kelvin, and therefore all the living things can be completely destroyed by the enormous heat and the shock waves generated by the explosion. So the first nuclear bomb was given a code name called Little Boy. As I told you, it was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan on August 6, 1945. The second bomb, of course, a typical construction of normally referred as atomic bomb. It was named as Fat Man. It was dropped over Nagasaki by America again during the Second World War. So the Little Boy had an explosive power of 15 kilo TNT and weighed around 4500 kg approximately. This is how the design of atom bomb can be understood. Now when you look at fusion bomb, this is also called hydrogen bomb. This is much more powerful than fission bomb. The hydrogen or its another isotope, deuterium, it is the fuel used in this type of bomb. In fact, it comprises a fission bomb along with hydrogen or deuterium as a fuel. It's a combination. The fission bomb creates a high temperature required for fusion, and because of that fusion reaction of hydrogen or deuterium to take place. So, like told earlier, the nuclei of hydrogen, deuterium, tritium, etc. fuse together to release enormous amount of energy. Now we can understand the difference between fusion and fission as a comparative analysis. For example, if you take atomic bomb, that is fission bomb, generally the material fuel used is uranium-235 or plutonium-239. Whereas in fusion hydrogen bomb, you use hydrogen, deuterium, tritium and other isotopes of hydrogen are used as a fuel. So in atomic bomb, neutron initiates chain reaction in an uncontrolled manner. Whereas in fusion hydrogen bomb, from fission reaction heat that is coming out, that initiates fusion reaction. In fission, otherwise atomic bomb, the explosion is basically 1500 to 20,000 tons of TNT and up to 5 lakh tons of TNT are being tested. Whereas in fusion, about 1000 times powerful than fission bombs, that is around 10 megatons of TNT. Most powerful bomb almost has a yield of 50 megatons of TNT. In atomic bomb, the stage is very simple, single stage approach. Whereas in fusion, it involves 2 stages of explosion. By fission, that leads to fusion, sufficient to build. And of course, designing of an atomic bomb is very easy to design and make. Whereas hydrogen bomb design is very difficult to build upon. This is how you can see the difference between fusion and fission reactions. So let us look at the construction and working of a fusion bomb, which is nothing but hydrogen bomb. This is the schematic representation of hydrogen bomb. It is the primary device where the fission bomb is kept. Here there is a foam which is polystyrene foam. So this is an aluminum casing. Here you have uranium-238 shield. So this can be released. That is called tamper. Here on either side you have lithium deuterate, in which plutonium rod is kept. This is the construction of a typical hydrogen bomb. The first thermonuclear bomb was exploded in 1952 by the United States. Because extremely high temperatures are required in order to initiate fusion reactions, the hydrogen bomb is also known as thermonuclear bomb. Hydrogen bomb derives a large portion of its energy from the nuclear fusion of hydrogen isotopes. So this shows the typical hydrogen or thermonuclear bomb construction. At its center, you will have a conventional fission bomb that is surrounded by a layer of lithium deuterate. It's a compound of lithium and deuterium, that is the isotope of hydrogen with mass number 2. And around it is a thick outer layer, frequently of a fissionable material, that holds the contents together in order to obtain a larger explosion. Neutrons from the atomic explosion cause the lithium to fission into helium, tritium, that is the isotope of hydrogen with mass number 3, and energy. Now let us see the reaction. So the reaction produces the tritium on the spot. So there is no need to include tritium in the bomb itself. In the extreme heat which exists in the bomb, the tritium fuses with deuterium in the lithium deuteride. The atomic explosion also supplies the temperatures needed for the subsequent fusion of deuterium with tritium and of tritium with tritium. For example, deuterium with tritium, the temperature supply is around 50 billion degrees centigrade. Similarly, for tritium with tritium, approximately 40 billion degrees centigrade. So enough neutrons are provided in the fusion reaction to produce further fission in the core and to initiate fission in the surrounding material. Like other types of nuclear explosion, the explosion of a hydrogen bomb creates an extremely hot zone near its center. In this zone of high temperature, nearly all of the matter present is vaporized to form a gas at extremely high pressure. A sudden pressure far in excess of atmospheric pressure propagates away from the center of the explosion as a shock wave, containing most of the energy that is responsible for the major part of the destructive effects. Because the fusion reaction produces mostly neutrons and very little radioactivity and therefore less radioactive fallout. Now, based on this, similarly, for example, another one what is known as neutron bomb. In 1958, USA has developed this and successfully tested. Produces blast effects and a hail of lethal neutrons, but almost no radioactivity fallout and little long-term contamination. This would cause minimal physical damage to buildings and equipment, but kills most living things. It is also called enhanced radiation weapon. Though it has less destruction power, but kills all living beings by very high neutron radiation dose. The neutrons of high energy are released that can penetrate the buildings and structures without physically damaging them, though killing all the living beings in the velocity. In principle, it works on the basis of fission reaction that release high flux of energetic neutrons. So this is what you need to know about neutron bomb. Let us summarize along with the key terms. We try to understand fission as a process of disintegrating heavy nuclei into small fragments. We looked at understanding fusion as a process of fusing light nuclei to form heavier nuclei. Nuclear reactions are independent of chemical reactions. Nuclear reaction cross-section is nothing but a measure of probability of interaction of a particle with nucleus. Now, fission is a process where heavy nuclei are disintegrated into smaller ones and the energy equivalent to the difference of binding energy of atom and its products is released. In the fission of uranium-235 atom, approximately an energy of 209 million electron volt per fission is released. Nuclear fusion is a process where lighter nuclei fuse together to form heavier ones. Hydrogen and its isotopes like deuterium, tritium and helium. These are the main fuels in the nuclear fission reaction. Nuclear cross-section is the probability of interaction of incident particles with the target. Very high temperatures of 10 cube to 10 power 8 kilo Kelvin are required to fuse and ensure that fusion reactions to take place. Controlled fission reactions are the main processes that take place in a nuclear reaction by precisely controlling the number of free neutrons available for the reactions. Due to natural radioactivity, some atoms of the radioactive isotopes may undergo spontaneous fission. In nuclear bombs, both in fission as well as fusion, the reactions are controlled by triggers, but once triggered, these are uncontrolled ones and cannot be stopped. That is why the use of nuclear weapon is highly destructive. So as a summary, when you look back at your objectives with which we started the concept of understanding nuclear fission and fusion, so we have tried to understand the basics of the nuclear reaction and the key features of fission and fusion, and also understanding the mechanism of artificial transmutation and the mechanism of fission on the basis of liquid drop model, and understanding the fusion reactions and controlled and spontaneous fission and fusion reactions, and then discussed the working of atomic bomb, hydrogen bomb and neutron bomb. This is what we have discussed in this session today.